This is the Sports Porch, Philadelphia, with your hosts, the Grand Schwabini, Rube, and me, your technical director. Come on, Philly, show us a little Eagles, Flyers, Phillies, and Sixers love. The Philadelphia Sports Porch starts now.
All right, I guess, are we live? We are live. So welcome everybody, one and all. I hope that you saw the intro video. We are not sure if you did, but if you did, believe me, it was something that our one and only original technical director worked on for many hours and made it fantastic. Today, we are blessed with somebody who's might be trying to take the place of the original technical director. We got Hockey Jesus in the green room, and he shows his face there as well.
Yeah, it definitely showed that intro was spot on. It's the
Okay,
one. I
excellent.
think it's the one thing TD actually did right.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So, what we are here for today is the one and only Sports Porch Philadelphia. I am the Grand Schwabini, and with me is my buddy Rube. How are you, Rube?
I am well. It's a beautiful day somewhere in Texas and excited to be talking Philly sports with my buddy, the Grand Schwabini.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So, thanks for watching us. You know, you can also catch us on YouTube. You can also catch us on X. You can also catch us on the Facebook page, Philadelphia Beautiful. So, thank you for watching us. And let's just get right into it, Rube. We got a lot of different things to talk about. But let's just start with the Phils. 9 games are in the books. The Phils are 7-2. They just completed a series win, 2 out of 3 from the LA Dodgers, who were previously undefeated. So that is a nice series win. How you feeling about the Phillies so far?
You know, it feels a lot like last year. It feels like we're getting out of the gate fast. Not feels, we are getting out of the gate fast. A lot of what I'm watching is a little less patience by Topper on getting ahead of things before they become perhaps bigger problems, i.e., taking this Romano out of the game, i.e., putting Mr. Bohm on the bench and having a hot bat with Mr. Sosa. So I like it, and what I really like is it looks like we got a pitcher in this guy Luzardo. So I'm excited to see new blood on the team, and you know I think it's going to be pretty soon that he's our number 2. What say you, Mr. Schwabini?
Well, yeah. I mean, look, 7-2. It's a really good start. First place, 1 game over the Mets. Somehow, the Atlanta Braves are looking like a dumpster fire right now. I have no idea how. I think they're 1-8. Is that correct?
I think they're 1-7. Is it 1-8 or 1-7?
I
was
think
just
it's
looking
one
at
and
the.
eight.
I'll have to
So
go. I'll go check that.
they're looking terrible. But you know, look, the good news is, you know, like for example, the technical director was predicting a step back for the Phillies this year. And one can understand that because, you know, they've sort of fallen short 3 years in a row. And so maybe the window has closed. But I think the beginning of the season has showed our Philly nation that they're not ready to take a step back just yet. You know,
1-8. 1-8. The Braves are 1-8.
yep, yeah, they're still a really good team. Now, look, yeah, you mentioned Luzardo. That was a great pickup, very kind of under the radar, good pickup by Dombrowski. But you know, look on the flip side, you know, how many times are we going to go into the season with a washed up reliever for $10 million, thinking he's going to recover his stuff? It's annoying, isn't it?
It
It's
is.
annoying.
It is. I don't know how we expect to win a World Series without an ace in the bull, an ace closer. And we talked about it, right? Last year when
Right.
the year was over, we said we probably need an outfield batter too that's going to hit for average, and we need an adult closer. And
Right.
here we are again, closer by committee.
Right. Although I have a feeling they're going to try to make Alvarado the closer this year. And
Yeah,
apparently he's looked really good. I mean, I don't think he gave up a run all spring training. And he's off to a pretty good start here right away. But we also know the trouble with Alvarado is sometimes he works himself into like, a bases loaded walks and then strikes out the side, So you obviously don't want to be doing that in the playoffs, right?
he's like the Moses Malone of baseball. He's just,
Mhm.
I'll get some more pitches and some more strikeouts, but I'm going to make it interesting. And I think you're exactly. It's at the deadline or whether it's earlier in the year, we have to go out and get ourselves a closer. Um, and what's really a bit nerve wracking when you talk about this, Jordan Romano, you even hear him talking after the game. He's like, I just don't know what's wrong. He calls it his velo. His velocity is down 3 miles
Right.
per hour. Doesn't know if it's a mechanical thing, whatever, but that's a little nerve wracking.
Yeah, for
When
for sure.
it's
For
early.
sure.
It's early.
The one thing I will say is one thing they've done well early on is they've played some better small ball.
Mhm.
And part of, obviously what makes the Phillies such an unpredictable team is that their chase rate has been really high the past couple years. Right now, they have the lowest chase rate in all of baseball.
That's
And
unbelievable.
so it is, yeah. And so it looks like, the guys are trying to change their approach. Maybe everybody except Alec Boehm, who always swings at the first pitch. Um, but I think there's a concerted effort to make a change. The other thing too with the Alec Boehm thing is, I mean, I don't know why. Like, why do we have to get so upset when Alec Boehm is upset at not performing well? Like, when Bryce Harper is angry, at a strikeout and decides to like toss the water cooler, we don't decide that we have to bench, Bryce Harper, because he's got a bad attitude. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't really get this whole turn on Alec Boehm thing. Do you understand it?
I do because I think with Bone, he's always going to be remembered for the guy that says, I fucking hate this place. And he's seen as a whiner. He's seen as someone that can't play when the lights are bright in Philadelphia. In other words, but Bryce Harper can, right? He may get angry and may get mad, but he'll back it up. He'll come back and he'll be the best player on the team. With Bohm, I think he just gets in his own head, and I just don't think he's made for Philadelphia. So, truth be told, uh, I'm I can see why we wanted to trade him over the offseason. My guess is that that's probably in his head, and he's probably, I don't know, trying to push a little too hard. But at this point, why don't we go get a freaking right-handed reliever and let Sosa play third base and let the cards fall where they may.
Well, here's the problem, though. A guy like Sosa gets exposed once he's playing every day. And here's the thing. I mean, like everybody forgets, like Alec Boehm. First of all, he led the league last year in doubles, and he had 97 RBIs, so almost 100 RBIs. And everybody seems to think that he's like a loser or something. I mean, like,
I don't think he's a loser. I just think he is a bit petulant, and dare I say, a bit of a head case. And what do we need that for? Did had he made the All-Star game last year? Had a great beginning of the season, but he was pretty average after that. The most of his damage was done in the first part of the season, and of course, he disappeared in the playoffs again
well, remember
last
too, we also got hit in the hand and like, missed like the last 3 weeks of the year and then came back in the playoffs.
year. Well, Jalen Hurts, he is not. He can play through injuries. You can break Bryce Harper's hand. He'll
well,
just hit it with the other hand. He'll throw it
well,
with the other hand.
I'll tell you what though. Let's do this though. Let's celebrate the good beginning to the season with a highlight from yesterday's Phil's Dodgers game. This is Nick Castellanos up with the bases loaded.
That was a shot, wasn't it?
Yep. So other than
Castellanos, and the Phillies have taken the lead here in the third. It is 6-2. Love it, love it, love it. 8.
And so I have to say that outside of Harper, I mean, I feel like Castellanos is my favorite Philly. I mean, like the bottom line is he can be the most distressing or discouraging, especially when he's swinging at the crap outside and he's got no shot of hitting it. You know what I mean?
He's polarizing, right? You can love him or you can hate him all in the same game. But
Right.
I'll tell you this, for the most part, he usually comes up pretty big for us. And it's not just at the bat, but how many times over the past 3 playoff seasons has he come up with just a game-saving catch or 2? So I
Right.
think he's a bit underestimated as an outfielder. I
Yeah.
just wish he was just a little bit more consistent at the plate and it wasn't so streaky. But that's kind of the story of the Phillies. And 10 games in, very happy to be in first place. Looks good. But there will be games like the first full game I was able to watch was Saturday, and they couldn't hit the Japanese guy, the new Japanese pitcher from the Dodgers, who couldn't get anybody out before that.
Beforehand, Sasaki.
Yeah, Sasaki. So it's just they look a lot like the team from last year, just from a bird's eye glance. They'll figure out ways to score runs in big innings, but I'd like to see just more consistent output at the plate, with a little bit more of that small ball going on.
Yeah.
And I'm just a skosh nervous about the bullpen. So I think I think we underestimated Mr. Hoffman, Hoffman last year, and who was the other? Strom's still here, but we'll see. We're off to a good start. It's too early to complain and be Negadelphia.
That is correct. That is correct. Okay, so let's take this on. Now we got a number of things we're going to talk about today. We will get to the NCAA tournament. We will get to Alex Ovechkin, becoming the greatest goal scorer of all time in the NHL. But let's talk a little Eagles, because Eagles are always top of mind. And this past week we had the owners' meetings, and there were some. This was one of the rare occasions where you get to see Jeff Lurie talk. And Jeff Lurie made a comment, and I wanted to get your opinion on it, Rube. And Hockey Jesus, can you pull up that comment from Jeffrey Lurie for us?
Okay, give me a second. You guys talk, and I'll get it up.
Okay, all right.
I thought it was a real treat to hear, though. You listen to Jeffrey Lurie speak, and you're just like, he's kind of like your buddy, and he's just kind of matter of fact. And what's really neat about him is that he's got a really what we call a high say-do ratio. He's going to say how they're going to go operate, and that's exactly how they operate. And you find me a more consistent team over the past 25 years in executing to a plan, I don't know who it is. And it starts from the top. But I also, what I found was really interesting, and it may be in the quote that HJ is going to pull up for us. But I didn't realize that they let some minority. He sold some of the team to some minority owners.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Here's your quote.
So here's the quote. He basically says, he wants to know. He said, it's really hard to pinpoint a weakness. And the way that they dominated the championship game in the Super Bowl, certainly they're the best in franchise history. And he was basically asking, were the Eagles of 2024 one of the best teams ever? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't know if I read that as one of the best teams ever. I think he was speaking about the best Philadelphia Eagles teams ever.
Well, no, I
Uh,
think he was. I think he was saying more, man. He was. He was like they asked him. They're like, "Oh, do you think that they're one of the best teams ever?" He's like, "Well, I'll let you decide that. Certainly the best Philadelphia team ever."
yeah,
But
I mean, listen, you look at the record after going 2-2, and then going 16-1, and then dominating the Super Bowl. I would put them up there as one of the best teams ever, just on pure record, based on the way in which they won games, running the ball, throwing the ball, playing
right
defense, and
now, there's a lot of different ways to look at it. So I wouldn't put them as one of the best teams ever as like a collective, right? The collective is, it's pretty obvious. It's the Steelers and their 4 Super Bowls, I think, within 5 or 6 years, right? Or if you want to go even a longer collective, whatever the Patriots are, maybe, was it 7 over a period of, I don't know, 15 years or something like that. So you
but
got
when
you
you
got
but when you
you got
compare like a team to a team,
yeah, I'm
right?
just saying just like a 1 year team.
Yeah,
Now obviously like you have the Bears, you have the 85 Bears, right? Who were just so dominant. But then again, they didn't really have to beat anybody in their Super Bowl, you know.
right.
It
Tony,
was
what was it? Tony Eason?
yeah, Tony Eason and the hapless Patriots before they ever won anything.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess you look back and you try to think about other blowout Super Bowls. And then you have the Redskins. I think they scored like 28 points in a second quarter against the Bills, I think. So that was one. Um,
But
it's
look over the course of a whole season, though, right? You think about
yeah,
Super Bowl, a big Super Bowl win is nice, but you also got to remember we were a couple of Jalen Carter stops away from losing to the Rams.
true.
So, so
Although I think that kind of happens in every
I think
Super
so.
Bowl run. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
happens.
You need a little luck. You
Yeah,
need
I mean, it's like think about Ben Roethlisberger and the tackle,
yeah.
right? Bettis, coughs up the ball, and then Ben makes the amazing tackle midfield, and then they win that game, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then they go on to win the Super Bowl. There's probably a play or two like that for every team where they were this close to being beat, and then that happens, and then they take off and win it all. You know?
Yep, yep. No, totally agree. But if you think about best teams ever, and I haven't looked at the stats or anything like that, but from a sniff test, from an eye test, where were the weaknesses on that team? And oh, by the way, everything that Howie did over the offseason will turn to gold. Just absolutely turn to gold. So
Except one thing, Bryce Huff.
Bryce Huff, right? So
He couldn't play.
what? 6 for 7, 7 for 8,
Right,
whatever it
right,
was.
right,
So
right.
just unbelievable. And the other thing that I liked when I heard Lori speak was, we just want to win, and we want to win big. And I don't hear that from Josh Ayers talking about the Sixers. I don't hear that from whoever runs the Flyers these days. Um, the Phillies, they're willing to spend the money, and Montgomery and Dombrowski, they want to win. But to me, the Eagles have just been, we couldn't ask any more from our owner, our GM, than what we've gotten from them over the past 25 years or
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I do completely agree. It's when you sit there and you think about Jeff Lurie, like when I was watching him speak, and I actually watched the whole press conference,
Hmm.
and I was just like, man, like we are so lucky to have this
Totally.
guy as our owner, because he just has a complete understanding of what it takes to win, and he knows his place. He knows, it's like Howie Roseman puts together the roster, Sirianni and the coordinators coach. It's not this, kind of muffled up mess that a lot of organizations kind of have, you
What
know.
they've done too, which is just brilliant, and you got to remember, I'm down here in cowboy country, and even the Cowboy fans are starting to turn on the Cowboys because they're so sick and tired of Jerry Jones and all his nonsense. And
Right.
it's like they get in their own way down here. They will wait and wait and wait to sign guys, instead of signing them early and setting the market. They sign guys late and have to overpay for them, and they do it over and over and over again. With
Right.
Ezekiel Elliott, with Dak Prescott, you know, the list goes on and on. So you look and compare and contrast how the Eagles are run, signing guys early, having to let really good players go because they draft so well, and we're kind of, you know, Lori talked a lot about, we got to save money to pay Jalen Carter. We got to save money to pay Quinion. We got to save money to pay all these guys that, you know, fortunately we drafted really well, but they're all going to have to get paid. And so what do you
Right.
do? So, you know, they learned, I think, after the first Super Bowl win that they probably held on to some aging guys that they shouldn't have. And now they are thinking ahead and saying, you know, CJ was great. Milton Williams was great. Josh Sweat was there for a long time and been part of the Super Bowl, but they're not the future. And in order for us to stay competitive and to not lose our shirt, we got to be able to plan ahead. So it feels like there's a strategy there. And that's great
Yeah.
to hear from the top. I wish, well, I won't get into our politics. So we'll just leave it at that.
Okay. Boy, that was close. That was close.
Woo!
That
I
was
know.
close.
Hey, one thing I think you guys are missing is the
What's
fact
that?
that they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean,
Right.
two-time champs. That's got to count for something on the above better than average scale, because nobody has ever done that before, and the Chiefs were a juggernaut. I mean, maybe not
Right.
maybe not last year, but the 2 years before, nobody could beat them. You know, Tom Brady had a hard time beating them. And the other thing that our esteemed technical director said was Denver, and I have no idea what that
I think
means.
maybe that's who the Redskins
That's
beat.
who the
and
Redskins
Denver
piled it up
instead of the
on.
Bills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't discount that. I think that's definitely worth tooting your own horn for.
Yeah. And you want to play the clip by Howie Roseman? I thought this was just interesting. It kind of comes a little out of nowhere, but talking about drafting and taking a look at certain guys. And our technical director is working his magic behind the scenes.
So for us, we have some objective things that I can't even overrule, you know, like, and they're ours, but you know, for one, like violence against women, like it's just not for us,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
that doesn't mean,
Yeah.
so it's like, I won't even watch them. I don't even want to talk about it. It just is deal breakers for us. So I can't go, but he's really good and he did it 10 years ago and he learned from it. It just doesn't work for us.
So that was another thing that, you know, it's a little thing, but I think in a way it's kind of a big thing. You know, it's the idea that, you know, you're not going to take on, you know, these wife beating NFL players. I'm
Well,
sorry, I couldn't think of a better way to put it.
listen, I think any organization should be saying that, but you also got to remember we also kind of took a chance on Jalen Carter, right?
Yeah, we did. And
He
Michael
was
Vick. And Michael Vick.
and Michael Vick, and
Yeah.
so I wouldn't call us you know, beyond reproach, if you will. Giving guys a second chance, you know, that was an Andy Reid thing, and you know, but a lot of people passed on Jalen Carter because of what happened. You know, he was involved and someone died in a car accident, and that
Yeah.
doesn't just go away. So,
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know,
he had
I don't
not,
want to sound a little. I don't want to sound.
yeah.
I don't want to. It kind of sounds a little too high and mighty to me, but you know, I respect it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, I guess you could look back and you could question some of the moves. I mean, you know, but I guess neither one. I guess Michael Vick and Jalen Carter, neither one was a violence against women. You know what I mean? So I think that he was just taking a stand on that and just saying,
Domestic
you
abuse
know,
is bad.
yeah,
Good.
we don't need that. Like, you know, we don't need to bring Kareem Hunt into our locker room. You know, that kind of a thing, which
Yeah.
I like. I mean, I think, you know what, just find people that love football who want to talk about it and work at it all the time and are good dudes. And, you know, you really don't need, you know, one
Nonsense.
player does not make a team in the
That's
NFL
right.
for sure, right?
Yep. It's nonsense. And you know what? Of all kind of the stuff that Sirianni, him and his kind of some of his silly colloquialisms,
Mhm.
you are not great without the greatness of others. I'm tired of hearing it, and it's
Yeah,
really cool, but it's right. Football, if the right guard doesn't pull at the right time, when the right tackle's doing it's like an orchestrated like symphony, and we did that really well this year.
that's
And
true.
that,
It's
that
true.
that's a lot of that's a lot that goes to the coaches, and you're right, it goes to, you got to want to be in it, and you got to want to play for the guy next to you.
All
So
right, so let's now talk about the main issue in the league today. Should they ban the tush push? There's Jalen going in, and the Chiefs cannot stop it. What do you think, Rube?
I think if you are, I think if you're going to ban the tush push, you've got to ban any other part of the field where people are pushing each other forward. And let me tell you something. I thought Laurie was right on the money there too. He handled it so beautifully. He's just like, people are saying it's an injury problem. Okay, show me some data. I see zero data that shows any kind of injury issue.
Yeah,
However,
in
and
fact, the NFL said no injuries on the play
no
last
injuries
year.
on the play. That's right. So if it's about injuries, well, that's bogus. If it's about, well, it's not a football play, well, neither is when a running back or a receiver is trying to go for a couple extra yards, and the biggest offensive lineman in the field comes and runs into the pile, and that's what injures other people, then you got to outlaw it all over the field. So,
Right.
you know,
Well, let me ask you
go
this:
ahead.
is a kneel down an aesthetically pleasing football play?
No, but
Is it,
it's strategically the
is
right play.
is the quarterback spike in the 2-minute drill, is that an aesthetically pleasing football play?
Yeah, that's right. So that's the other
You know,
argument is around it's not
but
aesthetically pleasing. Well,
right,
so what? Who
but
cares?
here,
We're
but
not
here,
here to be beautiful.
right, but here's the bottom line. The bottom line is, uh, I am pretty sure I'm going to give you a 90% chance it will be banned. And the reason why I say this is because they couldn't get enough votes to ban it at the owners' meetings. So when they want something to happen, or rather, when the commissioner wants something to happen, and they don't have the votes, then what they do is they table it for the meetings in May.
Yeah.
So it didn't just get a no vote, it got it tabled. And from what I understand, just listening to some of the reporters, actually, what you mentioned is what they're going to do. They're going to make it so that it's not about the tush push. It's going to be about no player can push another player forward. So
Right. Exactly.
it could be on the goal line. It could be, running 10 yards down the field, whatever it might be. That's just basically what they're going to go with. And, they're going to do it away with it. And look, I, I think maybe the Eagles maybe lose 5% of the plays that would have converted with a tush push as opposed to not. They still have the quarterback that can squat 600 pounds. They still have the Pro Bowl offensive line. They're going to make a lot of quarterback sneaks.
Yeah.
So
Hey, Schwabi,
yeah,
do you know what the injury rate is on a sneak?
I don't know.
I don't, but I have to imagine that there's a couple bells that get run. I mean, remember
Yeah,
did it happen to Foles when Jadeveon Clowney hit him in that
yeah.
playoff game?
Yeah.
You know,
I know that, and Laurie said this in his press conference. I know that the Eagles feel that the tush push is actually a safer play than the quarterback sneak.
yeah,
And I think that's about what it is. It's, instead of the quarterback sort of having to split a gap and take a dive, with his helmet first, the tush push sort of allows the quarterback to almost remain kind of upright,
mhm,
and be pushed, from the side. Um, Either way, I tend to respect the people who don't want it banned, like Dan Campbell and people like that, who are just like, look, they perfected a play and they're really good at it, and it's up to the rest of the league to stop it.
Exactly.
And like like if you really think about it, it's really almost like saying like, okay, if if all the quarterbacks in the league are graded on completing passes over 50 yards, and let's say Pat Mahomes is by far and away the best passer over 50 yards, he completes 85% of those passes. Like, well, then should we now, you know, say that there's no more passes over 50 yards allowed because this guy's just too good at it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just stupid.
Hey,
You know?
should we stop using the torpedo bat because the Yankees hit too many home runs?
Right.
It's within the rules.
Right.
And yeah, I don't know.
And if you really think about it, think about this. Like, believe it or not, I mean, Sirianni actually created the play. I mean, you have to admit, like, that's a pretty phenomenal play to create a play to the point where the league wants to outlaw it because it can't be stopped. That's really kind of crazy if you really think about that, isn't it?
Especially since we were calling him an idiot after they were 2-2.
Yeah. And any comments on this, Hockey Jesus?
Yeah, I found this statistic about injuries in a game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this comes from Reddit, so bear in mind this is the internet, so it probably could be wrong, but it looks pretty legit. This person did an analysis that said there are 4 injuries per game, and there are 153 plays per game. So there's an injury on about 2.6% of every plays in the NFL. And I think there was only 2 injuries all of last year that's, attributed to the quarterback sneak or the tush push.
Uh-huh.
And none of them were the quarterback.
Right.
So I think this is stupid to say it's injury prone. It's to me, it's a way to ban something that doesn't need to be banned. And actually, Mike Tomlin agrees with you guys. He wasn't ever going to vote this in. So it'll be interesting to see what they do, because you're right. By tabling it, that means they're going to try and sneak something really stupid in.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it's stupid. Like I agree that if you're going to ban that, you got to ban any pushing on the field. Now, maybe next year the whole offensive line turns around and pulls them into the end zone. I don't know.
Right.
But I think you're exactly right. They're gonna put this under no pushing. And sorry, it's a tush push, but guess what? No one else can do this. Push the pile down the field either nonsense.
Yeah. I mean, I think the end result of all of it is it's a fun discussion to have, but I really don't think it'll have much impact on the Eagles' success.
Well, let me ask you this, Schwabi.
Yeah.
So it's the season next year, and it's 4th and 1.5 at our own 42-yard line. Are we going for it?
Well, depends on who you're up against. If you're up against a team that's got a really weak defensive line and you've got a lot of weight advantage on them, you might. But
what
you
play
might,
you running? What play you running?
Well, I say that's why you have Saquon Barkley, right? Just give the ball to Saquon, and, let him run outside and make one guy miss.
Okay.
I don't know. All right, let's talk a little hoops. It's NCAA time, and I don't know. Did you get a chance, Rob, to watch the Houston Duke game?
Well, I watched it until about 5 minutes left in the game, and I may or may not have fallen asleep. And Lemmer may have tried to wake me up, and I may have not been able to keep my eyes open for some reason. So I admittedly missed the end of the game, which I was kind of bummed about.
Yeah, first of all, I have to tell you, I almost say stunning is an understatement. I happened to watch not the game. Who was the team that Houston beat to get into the Final Four?
They beat Tennessee. They whipped Tennessee.
No, but the team before that. So I guess it was their Sweet 16 game. They almost lost. They had to win on a last-second buzzer beater.
Okay.
And I watched that game, and oh my God, I thought the Houston was horrible. They didn't like make a basket for like the last 5 minutes of the game. I'm like, oh, this team is toast. This team's going to get smoked in the next round. And now here they are in the finals. And I'll tell you what was crazy about watching
Hey,
that
Mark,
Duke game.
it was Purdue.
Was it Purdue? Yeah,
It was
that's what.
Purdue. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I mean, look, it was the craziest thing. Like, you know how like you're sort of watching, but you're sort of not. You know, nowadays we have these things called smartphones, and so we're kind of looking. Just we'll just in case see what happens. Blah blah blah. I don't know. It was like I feel like they were down like 10 with like 50 seconds left or something like that. I'm telling you, I didn't actually think that they had a chance to lose until they were only up one. You know what I mean? And that might have been like with 12 seconds left or something.
Yeah.
And it was just unbelievable. I mean, like, all of a sudden Duke couldn't figure out how to get the ball in bounds and
They just kind of they just crumbled.
They did, man. They just crumbled, and like these guys from Houston, they made shots, and it was very surprising.
You know what's interesting? You know what's interesting though? It's the difference between Houston's got some guys that have been there a number of years and have played a lot of basketball together. And they've had some really good teams, but I would call it they've underachieved in recent tournaments. But it's the difference between a bunch of guys who are just like, all right, they're coached really well. Sampson's a great coach. He has been everywhere he's gone.
Mhm.
Against a team of kids who most of them are probably one and dones at Duke that
Right.
haven't played a lot of basketball together and they haven't seen adversity. And
Mhm.
and it's not shocking to me that sort of thing happens. Flag should have been a senior in high school this year. You can't put
Right.
kids in that kind of pressure situation and expect that they're going to execute flawlessly against a team that is
Yeah.
relentless and has played a lot of basketball together and is coached very well. Not that Duke isn't.
Yeah.
So I'm not totally shocked.
Yeah, and I did think that, the play that Cooper Flag ran, I mean, it was a pretty good play. He got a pretty good shot off.
Just missed it.
He just missed it. But
Yeah.
I think part of the reason why they lost, though, was they didn't go to Flag earlier. When they were up 10 points, they didn't go to Flag. When they were up 8 points, they didn't go to Flag. When they're up 6 points, they didn't go to Flag. That was the problem. They just sort of were expecting guys to sort of get through the end of the game as they probably always did throughout the year.
Mhm.
And it just didn't happen. But with that being said, I mean, who do you like between Florida and the Cougars?
Man, I don't listen. I've bombed out of my pools, so I'm the last guy you want to ask. But I was looking at something that had the matchups player by player, and it's going to be they actually the guys look alike, right?
Yeah.
They look like big, strong kids who are athletic and can play and defend. I, I I watched Florida totally take apart Auburn the game before, the other
Yep.
semifinal. They
Yep.
made Auburn look very pedestrian. They made this guy Broom look
Right.
very pedestrian. So I think they both played dogged defense. I think they both who's the kid who's been playing great, Cleary, the point guard for
Like,
Florida.
yeah, like Clarton or something, or
What is his name? Walter Clayton Jr.
yeah, yeah,
Dude, he's been outstanding. I haven't seen a performance like this in I don't know how long. So I will take Florida, although my brain says Florida, my heart says Houston because they're closer. And I'd like to see Samson win one. And as a Tennessee guy, I was born and bred to hate Florida. So
yeah,
I don't want to see Florida win, but I think it's a toss up, and I think it'll be no more than a 5-point game either way.
yeah. I agree. I think it's going to be really close. My head's telling me that Florida's going to win, but my gut also is pulling for Samson to get a title. That'd be a great, kind of cherry on top to his career. And that would be really cool to see. And like, let's face it, I mean, Houston, it's not like there's championships coming out the wazoo there. We know Florida will win some in football or basketball at some point down the
Yeah.
road,
Yeah.
so it'd be nice to see kind of a smaller school win, even though it's not a small school, but you know what I mean.
Hey, remember they were Phi Slamma Jamma, and it's been a long
Yeah,
time since they were Phi Slamma Jamma.
that
But
is true. That they had
I
Akeem and Drexler, right?
yeah, man,
Yeah,
they were like the original Fab Five, like all the guys that
right.
were on that team.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sad to see them win. I would actually be quite happy to see them win, and
All
see
right.
Houston win.
All right. Well, let's go on over to the world of puck, where one
Ovi,
Alexander Ovechkin did this, Steve. Hockey Jesus.
where are you?
Crossing with Chikrin through center. Send in Wilson on the flank. Cross ice. Ovechkin fires. Score! The chasing days are done. Alex Ovechkin is the greatest goal scorer in the history of the NHL.
So pretty exciting. You want to hear something kind of crazy, right? I forgot that this game was on. All right. And so, I'm just dilly-dallying. And
What
I
does Billy
and
Dallion look like for you, Grand Schwabini?
dilly-dallying means who knows what I'm doing, really. And and I looked down at my phone and I'm like, oh, the Caps are on. It's in between periods. And I was like, oh yeah, I probably got to watch that game because I got to see Ovechkin score that goal. So I continued to dilly dally a little bit longer, and I finally get into the living room. I put the game on, and literally within 5 seconds, he scored the goal, and I saw it live.
I would love to hear HJ's you know your opinion of Ovechkin as a player. I mean, obviously he's one of the all-time bests. What was the stat too? I thought the other really cool thing was they scored the same amount of goals in the same amount of games between them, like almost like to the game. It was crazy.
Yeah, to the game. Yeah.
Yeah, just amazing. But
Yeah,
I would love
actually, in
HJ.
the amount of
Yeah,
empty net games, I think Ovechkin only has like 6 or 7 more empty net goals, and he has way more power play goals. So that's really the only difference. Like the total number of games are about the same, and actually, I think they're exactly the same because
exactly the same.
he could have broken it that Friday night, but he said, "Don't put me in. I don't want to score an empty net goal." And then have all those Canucks, just say, it's not a real record breaker when you
It's
don't
like the
score
stray.
against
It's
the
like the
goalie.
Strahan sack. He didn't
I
want
thought,
to be.
I thought that was pretty classy of him. He didn't even want to go out there because he knew they would feed him the puck,
Yeah.
And
Right.
So I like that. The thing is, I have a similar thing, Mark, where not on Sunday's game, but on Friday's game, I was camping. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll be able to, I got one of these things too, where I can watch things like this. And there was no signal. I couldn't get any signal. So I had to get text updates that said, Ovi just tied the record. I'm like, I missed it, because I think actually tying the record is just as exciting as beating it, because only one person has ever been there before. And the way hockey is, you could score 4 goals in a game. When you get hot, it's you just ride it out. So, but I mean, as far as my opinion about Ovechkin, the hockey player,
Is he the best? Is he the best ever, HJ?
No, absolutely not.
Why not? Why not?
Because he scores a lot of goals. But I mean, you see his game. I mean, his game is about scoring goals. His game is not necessarily about playing defense in the defensive end. I mean, as far as a hard-nosed winger goes, he's one of the best. He's up there with Messier. I mean, Messier used to play that hard game where, he would check guys and, early in his career, Ovi would run guys over. So, and the fact that he had a broken leg this year, missed 20 games and still has scored 40 goals this year. Nobody else, I don't think, will ever do that again. But I mean, you have to look at the hockey player in the totality of his game. He's not really known for, dishing out assists. So, that's kind of a weakness for him. But I mean, honestly, he's the best goal scoring hockey player of all time. Nobody can deny that. I don't care. I don't care what you say. You might say, well, Mike Bossy, if he would have played 10 more years, would have beat that record. But he didn't play that many years,
Right.
And it's not like Ovechkin is, a lollygagger or somebody who just, cherry picks for these goals. He plays hard every night. And my opinion of him as a hockey player certainly changed over time. I thought, okay, so he's a good goal scorer. So what? He's never going to get a cup. Then he got a cup. And then, as he aged, I think he aged really well. That tribute that he did to Marc-Andre Fleury, I thought was really first class. So I think as he has aged, his hard edge is kind of softened for me. And for me, that's made me more of an Ovechkin fan than ever before. So, so I'm happy he got the record. Boy, I mean, you hate to say that it'll never be broken again, but before this year, there was a guy up in Toronto who was scoring as many goals as Ovi was early in his career. So I wouldn't say never be broken again, but I don't know. It might take another 30 years. It might take a new generation and a different way of looking at it. But who knows? The NHL may expand, and if they expand, that might mean that they have more games that they play. They might add 2 or 4 more games. So, you're going to have
these guys
more
are healthy.
opportunity to
These
score.
guys are healthier than ever. They're going to play longer
watered
into
down
their
talent,
careers.
maybe.
Yeah.
So
that's my opinion on Ovi for sure.
But hey, Rube, just in case you wanted some perspective here.
Give it to me.
So there is also, it's not really a record, but it kind of is. It's pretty impressive. Sidney Crosby this year beat Gretzky's record. Gretzky had gone a point per game in 19 consecutive seasons, and Crosby this year hit 20 seasons at a point per game. Okay,
that's unbelievable. That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? So now listen to this. So I just decided, as I'm, feeling all these records and everything, I just decided to look up. I'm like, all right, who has the best points per game ever, right? And just to give you an idea, in the 20 years, I think Sidney Crosby's at like 1.25, maybe something like that, right? It's like 1.21 or 1.25, I forget, something like that. Wayne Gretzky career is 1.92.
I know.
And
that's amazing, isn't it?
And believe it or not, Mario Lemieux is 1.88.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like a huge fall off.
It's
now believe it or not, the guy in Edmonton, what's his name again?
McDavid. Yeah,
Connor McDavid. I think he's like 3rd or 4th. He's pretty, like, it's maybe somewhere around like 1.6 or 1.5 or something like that.
Yeah.
But like, if you just really think about it, like, think about how good Crosby has been for 20 years, and then Gretzky's at 1.92.
Crosby's missed a lot of games too. Have they played? Are they around?
Well,
I guess it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, he played a lot. He played a lot of fewer games than Ovechkin has because he had that concussion for almost a full season, and that really did him in.
That's incredible.
Seasons, yeah.
I wish when Gretzky was playing, we were all kind of younger, and the game wasn't as pervasively on TV, so we didn't really get to see him play a lot.
Yeah, but you've seen the highlights. You've seen what happened. And the thing is, like, the goalie play back then is nothing like it is now. I mean, the goalies now are just so much more athletic. They're just faster. They take up more of the goal than ever before, and their pads are so much bigger, but yet they can still move with such flexibility. I think that's the big difference to me, in the game. But the thing that's really interesting, like at the beginning of Crosby's career, and the end of Lemieux's career, there was so much clutching and grabbing, and the game was so slow. They changed that after the lockout year. And I think that's really what saved hockey, to be honest with you, because once that changed, they really made the game of hockey more what it's about. Try to be the speed of the puck. And that's what gets exciting, when these guys can almost skate at that speed and still do what they do with the puck and passing and even some of the hits. The only thing I don't like about the Ovechkin goal is the fact that Tom Wilson got the primary assist. That really irks
I
me.
hate that. I hate that guy.
I think as Philly fans, as Flyer fans and as Penguins fans, we can gather around together and say, screw Tom Wilson getting that assist.
Did you notice the Islanders crowd was very gracious, but the one moment that they seemed to get their feathers ruffled a little bit was when Tom Wilson came out with flowers for Mrs. Ovechkin.
I did see that. They were kind of booing, yeah.
Right.
It was a low boo, but it was a boo.
Right.
Well, that and Gary Bettman. Nobody likes Bettman for some reason. I'm not sure why, but
I don't know why.
Nobody really likes that guy,
All right, let's time to wrap it up with our last segment. And our last segment is something called What We're Watching. And
hey, Mark, can you tell us what we're watching is all about?
I sure can, Rob. I sure can. What it's about is it's our way of giving back to you, to our viewers, to our audience, to our community. We understand what it's like to be in front of that big screen TV and to be lost, clueless, wondering, where do I go next? What show do I watch next? What movie do I watch next? And to not have the answers. Well, we have the answers for you. And we have them in both ways. We can tell you what to watch and we can tell you what not to watch. All you have to do is tune in right here, right now, about 10 minutes of 7 every Monday night. And you can learn what's worth watching and what's not. So, Rube, let's start us off with you. What did you completed season 4 of Reacher? And I will tell you what, Rube, I watched this as well. And that guy is the biggest guy I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God.
And I'm not talking about Reacher.
No, that other was that season 4, not season 3? I don't. I guess
think
I'm
it's
losing.
3.
I'm losing.
Maybe it's 4. I don't know.
I'm losing track of my seasons. But here's what. That dude is gigantic. I'd never looked up who that is or kind of what his claim to fame is, other than being the big guy. But he makes Reacher, who's gigantic, look like
I
a
know.
little fella. Usually when I'm giving my reviews of what I'm watching, it's usually pretty positive. And I thought the first couple of seasons of Reacher was really good. Lemmer, for those of you who do not know, is what I call my wife, Leslie. We agreed 20 minutes into this season, we're like, oh no, it's jumped the shark. And the reason it's jumped the shark is because there's a new female lead character that plays the cop with the awful Boston accent, the New England accent. And if she said Teresa one more time, we were going to throw something at the TV. So I'm not going to give away the plot. And of course, there's lots of good action with Reacher, especially in that final, fight scene with that big, gigantic guy, which apparently he got a concussion as part of that.
Really?
I thought it was right down to Anthony Michael Hall trying to play,
I thought he was phenomenal. You didn't like it?
I just couldn't buy. I just couldn't buy it, and I just couldn't buy the plot this season, and so I'm giving it a thumbs down.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rube, because I can review this one as well. I give it a thumbs up. But
Really?
But I feel like I'm coming at it from a much different vantage point as you.
Please do tell.
I already knew through the first 2 or 3 seasons, whatever it was, I already knew that Reacher was not a good actor.
Yeah.
He's very stiff, and maybe that's part of the character, but I somehow think it's actually just him.
Yeah.
And I already knew that there was going to be some new love interest, and it was going to be somebody that he worked with. And I already knew that many people were going to die in the process of Reacher trying to right a wrong. that being said, I thought it was completely entertaining. You know, every episode was enjoyable. I didn't expect too much. I wouldn't say to anybody, you have to watch Reacher season 3. I wouldn't say that, but you know, it's light fun. It's a good time. That's my review.
I respectfully disagree. I couldn't have been more disappointed with all of the acting. Especially just the whole plot of we got to find Teresa. If that woman said Teresa, you know what I'm talking about too.
I know.
What about, hey, we're all going to die, but you know what? We're going to get Teresa. And Teresa this and Teresa. I never want to hear the name Teresa ever again. Thumbs down.
Teresa was just an innocent little flower. And you'll have to watch to see what happens.
That's right.
All right. So what did the Grand Schwalbini watch? A movie on Prime called The Burial from 2023. Have you seen it, Rube?
I have not, but those are two very good actors that you just showed.
Tommy Lee Jones and Jamie Foxx in a true story. And it was actually very good. I got this one in on the airplane. I've now become somebody who downloads movies and watches them on the plane.
Oh, you're that guy.
Okay. Yeah, it was my second flight of which I did this, coming and going.
All right. Welcome to 2025.
Yes, and it's my number one airplane movie thus far, out of the 4. But no, really, it's a pretty good story. It's basically about Tommy Lee Jones is kind of like a Georgia Southerner who owned like 6 or 7 funeral homes in Georgia, family business, passed down from generations. He's kind of getting to the point where, he's in a little bit of trouble. He's in a little bit of debt. And apparently there's like big companies that are coming out and they're buying up all the funeral homes. Okay. And part of their buying up all the funeral homes is they're doing a lot of bad things. They're like, kind of pushing people out and making deals with them, but then saying, we're just going to wait. We're not going to sign, because they're basically waiting for people to go into bankruptcy so they can just take it for nothing, instead of a better offer. They're making promises to communities, like the Baptist church community, that they're going to do all sorts of good things for them, and they're not doing anything. And, meanwhile, it's a company where there's, the main guy's like a billionaire on a yacht with a helicopter pad. And he's kind of like the bad guy. And what was kind of interesting about it was, that, Jamie Foxx was this, attorney who handled, a lot of the black cases down south, and he never represented somebody white before. And at first he wasn't going to take the case because he was thinking like, well, how much money could this be? And then when they kind of finally convinced him to take the case, it was just kind of like sort of a look at how he kind of transformed from kind of more like an ambulance chaser type of attorney to an attorney that made like his mark and had a pretty incredible career taking down some absolute giants in the business world.
Did you say it was a true story?
Yeah, it's a true story. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. So I would recommend it. Thumbs up.
Okay. All right. I'll look forward to watching that one. I will put it on the list.
Yep.
The Burial. Done.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We really appreciate your viewership. Remember, you can catch us on X, YouTube, Philadelphia Beautiful on the Facebook page. We always download the podcast after the show, and you can get that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you get your podcasts. So look, there's a lot of different ways to watch our show. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Tim.